G'day, it's Nick and welcome to Wicked Wildlife. And in this video, we want to do a bit of a follow-up on our recent video on cane toads. And in this video, what we're going to be doing is covering 10 crazy facts that we couldn't fit into our last video. So here's 10 crazy facts that you guys need to know about cane toads. Stick around. Pretty dangerous. For more Wicked Wildlife encounters, this is Tully, our resident scrub dog, newest member to our wild family here. Australian. So number one is that cane toads are actually incredibly ancient. There's been fossils of cane toads found in Central and South America that date back to 5 million years that are completely indistinguishable from the cane toads over in South America today. So these guys have to be doing something right. Their design has not changed for 5 million years. Number two, here in Australia, cane toads are actually still evolving. You see, over in Central and South America where these guys come from, all the available habitat that suits them as far as climate goes is already occupied. So they've sort of reached a stalemate. They're already perfectly designed for that place. But here in Australia, they've been placed in a unique situation where there's all this available territory just ripe for the taking. And what's happened is sort of an Olympic Village effect, where the cane toads that have moved into these new areas the fastest are, of course, the biggest toads with the longest legs. And as a result, these toads out in the invasion front are breeding with each other, and each generation is subsequently getting a tad bigger, longer legs and travelling further. In the 1930s, when cane toads were first introduced to North Queensland, this invasion front was only capable of moving about 10 kilometres a year. But today, these guys are spreading as much as 70 kilometres a year. So it's a pretty big difference in only 70 years. We think of evolution as taking millions of years, but these guys are changing to fit the Australian environment in a lot less time than that. Number three, cane toads in Australia aren't just evolving themselves, they're actually driving evolution in some of our native Australian animals. In North Queensland, when the cane toad first arrived, the red-bellied blacksnake was particularly hard hit by their arrival. Being a frog eater, he couldn't help himself but feast upon these deadly toads. In some of these original areas, where the snakes have had 70 years to adjust, we've noticed that some populations of red-bellied blacksnakes have increased their body size by 5 to 7% without increasing their head size. What this has meant is that a bigger snake is now only able to eat a smaller toad, which is theoretically a non-lethal dose. On top of that, many species, red-bellied blacksnakes included, have developed a slight tolerance. Snakes from an area where cane toads have been for a long time seem to be able to tolerate a little bit more toxin than snakes in an area where cane toads are currently moving into. They've also driven behavioural changes in many species. We've found death adders and northern quolls and some monitor lizards that were completely decimated when these toads moved through, have now recovered, and the individuals in these populations are made up of animals that have inherited sort of a distaste for cane toads. Basically, anybody who wanted to eat a toad is gone, and all the individuals left don't look at a cane toad as a food source. So they've changed things physically, getting bigger, physiologically, with some tolerance to venoms and poisons, and behaviourally, with animals not really looking at cane toads as a food source. So there you go, cane toads are evolving themselves and driving evolution. Number four, the cane toad is actually the largest toad on Earth. Here in Australia, the cane toad averages about 10 to 15 centimetres long, but the record is 24 centimetres long and 2.7 kilograms. That's a big toad. Now, they don't come out as the biggest amphibian. They're trumped, of course, by the giant salamanders and the largest frog, the Goliath frog in equatorial Africa, can get to about 32 centimetres long. But a 2 kilogram toad is one hell of an amphibian. So, world's biggest toad. Number five, cane toads can actually be useful in some ways. Over in these guys' natural range in Central and South America, the Choco Indians used to actually collect these guys and sort of cook them over bamboo to collect the venom, and they would coat their arrows with it for hunting. So their toxins have been used for hunting and warfare for thousands of years. On top of that, over in Peru, part of their natural range, cane toads are an important food source for many people. Once these guys are skinned and prepared properly, they're actually incredibly healthy, full of omega-3, so they're a good food source for some people in parts of the world. More recently, these guys have proved to be potentially useful for medical science, and it's been discovered that some of the toxins that these guys carry in these parotoid glands have the ability to detect and kill cancer cells of the prostate. So potentially we might have a prostate cancer drug one day thanks to cane toads. So they might not be good for the environment, but they do have their uses. Number 6, cane toad toxins are not only useful medicinally, but they've been used by many people as a drug. We believe that the Olmec Indians over in Central and South America used to collect cane toads and use their toxins for the hallucinogenic effect that it had, helping them as part of their spiritual rituals and ceremonies. So cane toads have been used as drugs for a long time. Here in Australia, there was issues in the 1960s and 70s in hippie communes. When police cracked down on heroin and it became harder to access, some people started collecting cane toads, boiling them down into sort of a muck, watering it down a little bit and drinking it to get high off the toxins in the cane toads. So it's been used by everybody from the Olmec Indians to hippies in North Queensland. There's even been cases of domestic dogs, not only once or twice licking cane toads and getting high by accident, but developing behaviors where they actively seek toads out to lick them and have this sort of surreal effect. They just stare at the sky for a little while. So there you go. Number 6, cane toads are getting people and dogs high. Number 7, there's actually been 2 people in Australia killed sort of by cane toads. While cane toad toxins are certainly potentially very dangerous, there's never been a human being killed by the toxins of a cane toad. However, there was a pretty bizarre case in 1994 at Bowen Caravan Park in North Queensland, where ambulance and police were called out after a man who had been killing cane toads with a spear made out of a metal pole with a carving knife inserted into the end. What they found on arrival is this bloke with this metal spear had been going around and stabbing cane toads and putting them in a bin. And being out in the caravan park at night, he hadn't seen an extension lead running across the ground. He went to go stab a toad, got himself an extension lead, electrocuted himself, and died instantly. To add to that, in 2016, just a few years ago, a 13-year-old boy was tragically killed, again hunting cane toads, when him and his friends were going out with golf clubs, clobbering these poor guys. And this poor 13-year-old bloke was standing too close to one of his friends taking a swing at a toad, was hit in the side of the head, and died a couple of days later in hospital. Number 8, cane toads are found everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Now, this sounds a bit obvious, but a lot of people don't realize, of course, like we said, these guys come from Central and South America, from the Amazon basin up to parts of Texas. But they've also been introduced, obviously, to Australia, but also to Florida, Papua New Guinea, parts of Indonesia, the Philippines, Jamaica, Barbados, Puerto Rico, Japanese islands, and many, many South Pacific islands like Fiji. So these guys now have a natural range that's not much bigger than their introduced range. They're found over a huge section of the world. Number 9, Australia is home to the world's biggest ever cane toad. Now, this might not actually be a live one. In a town called Sarina, about 20 k's south of Mackay in North Queensland, a toad called Buffy was built out of fiberglass in the 1986 as an attraction to the town. And today, this gigantic toad makes its way onto the list of Australia's big things in the centre of the town of Sarina. So if you're driving through North Queensland to commemorate the introduction of the toad to this area, you can see Buffy, the world's biggest toad, in the centre of town of Sarina. And lastly, number 10. In 1981, when Prince Charles and Princess Diana were married, they were given 4 cane toads as a present from the Australian Defence Force. Now, they weren't given 4 live toads like this guy to look after. They were actually given a leather-bound book made out of the skins of 4 preserved toads as a wedding present from the Australian Defence Force. So, while a lot of people don't like these guys, they're Australian enough to give as a wedding present on behalf of the Australian nation. So there you go, guys. There's 10 crazy facts about cane toads that we couldn't fit into our first cane toad video. So if you like this video and you haven't seen our other one, jump back a couple of weeks and you'll get to see all about why these guys were introduced to Australia, some of the issues they've caused, and some of the things we might be able to do to help it. Other than that, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, wherever you watch us. And if you want to help us get further afield, like up here in North Queensland and Northern Territory, to visit stranger and cooler animals all the time, check us out on Patreon, where you can leave a contribution to help our videos get better and better every single week. With that being said, I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. And as always, please be nice to wildlife, even the warty guys. And we'll see you next week.